Yay, anime reflux. Legitimate yay.
Woo.
It's
Yay.
good anime yay.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I didn't. It
Uh,
just, I can see where people would enjoy it. It just didn't land for me.
uh, Slicer just made me
Okay.
sad out of the gate. But okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give the anime props. It definitely got off to a good start, and things actually happened.
Hmm. Okay. So the anime we're doing is man, you just harsh my vibe so
Ranpo
bad.
Kitan,
Yeah.
game of Laplace.
Yeah. Laplace. Game of the place. It's very culturally jumbled here with the title. Like that's literally Japanese, English, French.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think Japanese has LA as a thing.
Laplace. Um, but yeah, this if people don't remember from last week, let's say week, depending on like we ran out and had no episodes, so I haven't actually released any new ones in a while. But this one is from. It's basically created as a celebration of an author who is described as the Japanese Sir Arthur Conan Doyle,
Yes.
which is Sherlock Holmes, for people that don't know the names of authors, which is fair enough. Some people don't. Yeah. So, the Japanese equivalent of the author of Sherlock Holmes.
Edogawa Ranpo.
Yes. That is very high praise, and it kind of seems to bear out, though at the same time, you can see why people say that just from watching the first episode, where we have a hyper intelligent guy that doesn't really do people and has some sort of drug problem.
For those who might be familiar with it, the main detective in the books by Edogawa Rampo is named Kogoro Akechi. So anybody who's played Persona 5 might know the detective prince, Goro Akechi. Well, that's a
The
reference.
let's just say the creators of Persona 5, the designers, they took a lot of cues from this show, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or from the works, at least.
I mean from this show specifically, like I'm pretty sure like with the whole shadow people, like that's a whole thing that they do in Persona 5 in the loading screens of just a
Yeah,
bunch of
that
people
is
and
true.
just shadows. Yeah. Yeah, so like the designers for that sort of thing, the backdrops and things, it absolutely seems like they took some cues from this, and that might have been an ongoing thing during production. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, just, hey, while we're writing it, look at these stories from, like, old novelist Japan. They're great. We should borrow liberally from these. And then the anime came out and they're like, oh, look, they did some fucking cool shit with their designs. We should borrow liberally from this. Like, okay.
Let me just double check something real quick. Persona 5 came out in 2016. The
Yes.
anime for this came out in 2015.
2015.
So,
Yep. Or they might have even had, like, designers in common. Is also possible. Though probably less likely. In any case. So yeah, this is a series of mysteries and stuff. Very macabre murders kind of thing. It's very
the main our the character whose eyes we're seeing things through is the kind of anime original character, I believe, of Kobayashi Yoshio, who is a young boy, 13 years old, often gets mistaken for a girl, trap, that sort of thing. Wakes up with a knife in his hand.
A hacksaw.
And the hacksaw, right? I thought it looked like a box cutter from the angle that I saw it, but I might have missed it. Yeah. And his teacher is posed and dismembered, dead in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And by posed and dismembered, he means legs folded underneath them like Buddhist prayer, arms planted, elbows down, I think it was, on the floor.
Yes.
And hands raised as if ready to hold something up. And no head.
And like a jacket thrown over him?
So yeah.
I'd say that's a hell of a cold open. That's technically not the cold open. The cold open was a weird series of scenes of Kobayashi just wandering through the city through all of the people that he doesn't care to recognize, which seems to be the motif they're going with the shadow thing for, which is he's depicted as sort of uninterested in everything. In fact, he outright states that. So he doesn't really care to acknowledge a person until they interact with him directly. So doesn't even see them. They are literally just grey blobs to him.
Yes. It's only once they interact with them that they gain their color, and we get an introduction title card saying their name, their job, and how old they are.
So he wakes up in a classroom with a bloody hacksaw in a room covered in blood with a corpse of a dismembered teacher in it. Naturally, he is immediately the lead suspect in the case.
Naturally.
There's not really any getting around that. And the detectives are like, yeah, we kind of have to suspect you, like, directly to his face, because, like, there would... If they said they didn't, he wouldn't believe them. Because that would be stupid.
You can't really sugarcoat a situation like that. At least, unlike Dead Man Wonderland, they didn't arrest him right away.
Which, actually,
I
Dead
feel
Man
like
Wonderland
Dead Man Wonderland did it more realistically. They would absolutely arrest him.
Yeah, that... As far as Japan is concerned, that would be an open and shut case. Like, even more so than they usually are, because Japan's criminal justice system is broken as fuck.
I think because it's mentioned that because he's 13 instead of 14, they can't really just hold him in a cell without...
Yeah.
It's an age thing.
That, yeah.
They do mention that, yes. But they also don't immediately arrest him, which they could have done, and would have easily been able to say, yeah, totally, it's him. And pretty much no one would have batted an eye, like, yeah.
It is a bit... Well... There's not much reasonable doubt there.
Yeah. So... the detectives are like, yeah, we totally suspect you a lot. And then the student council president of the middle school, they're at the middle school as they're 13, as mentioned, just sort of bull rushes into the crime scene, which is a thing you're really not supposed to do for obvious reasons, and is like, hey, yeah, okay, he's my friend, so I need to vouch for him that he definitely couldn't have done this, and also I don't really know what his logic was here. Like, I need to be here for him because he's my friend seemed to be about as far as it went. And then everything else was just bullshitting to...
The logic, yeah.
Something about him being the student council president and being prominent among the student body. I mean, if you look at it from the angle of he needs to know how to properly handle the other students, then it makes it a little more reasonable.
It also makes it the teacher's job, though. So that's... Like I
but
say...
the teacher's dead.
No. Teachers, plural, there are other teachers in the school. Like I was saying, it's him bullshitting to stay involved in what's going on and be there for his friend, which he's a fast talker. Give him credit for that, I guess. Yeah, so they take him to the police station and get a statement, and then they let him go because he's 13. And we get introduced to 3 different detectives. One is a shady guy that immediately screams villain, but it's probably very much a red herring. We get straight-laced guy who does things by the book. And we get the super detective Akechi, who is immediately like, I'm a super analyzing guy who doesn't really care about anything else, and I immediately pull out a bottle of pills and take some. We have our archetype. So I forget, the straight-laced detective says something about doing something that was on Akechi's orders. I forget what it was in this point.
Sending him home.
Yeah. They send him home, and they're trying to make the situation seem much smaller so as to not give the criminal the attention they're seeking.
Yeah, I think it was not dealing with the school much, maybe was what he was talking about. I can't quite remember. But yeah, next day, everyone's kind of freaking out that, school's back in session. The teacher's gone. And we have the guy that may or may not have killed him back in class. Cool. Thumbs up. You can't see it, but I'm doing thumbs up. And then student council I think he was called Hand something. Let's call him Prez. Prez is immediately like, hey, Guy Kobayashi, everything's cool, right? Everything's cool. And then someone else is like, everything's cool? And he's like, everything's cool. Okay, everything's cool.
He didn't murder. He was falsely accused. He's not going to kill you all.
And the new homeroom teacher comes in, and she is the stereotypical woman trying to recapture her youth kind of motif.
It's like they show her age, and I'm like, oh, you're in your 30s. That explains it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable, and it comes off as uncomfortable, so good job there. So, yeah, then we go through school, and school's fine, and everything happens. And then at the end of the day, Kobayashi and Hamada? I want to say it was Hamada. Maybe. That doesn't sound right. Maybe. I don't know. Fucking Prez. Kobayashi drags him to a place that he really wants to go. And this is a shabby apartment block, it looks like, that they climb to the top of. And on the roof, on a rooftop smoking area kind of thing, there is another tiny, tiny building that looks shady as all fuck. And knocking on, it turns out to be Akechi's place. I would say house, but it's technically a building on a building, which is really weird. I don't know whether that's a thing. But yeah, he's like, why the fuck are you here? go away. And they're like, no. And he's like, all right, then take off your shoes. Just doesn't really fight that much. Well, actually, Kobayashi goes through a whole thing of how he figured out where this guy lives because of a number that he saw when there
It's
was
like,
a phone
so
call.
I saw you when I was in the police station. I saw your number, and it was an area number. You didn't have a cell phone because I was watching you, and you didn't look like you had taken out a cell phone once. I kind of followed that number. It seemed to belong to a store that was here, but I couldn't figure out. So I contacted the real estate agents, and they said that private office had been moved here, and so I just had a good hunch that this is where you were at.
Yeah. Good job remembering all that, by the way.
Just watched it.
Yeah, so did I. That's good job remembering all that. Yeah, so they go in, and he has a cool place inside. Outside looks like shit, but inside it's a cool place.
Don't touch anything. Everything is right where it should be.
Yep. Kind of neurotic kind of guy. You know, Sherlock Holmes motif. And they're like, yeah, so you don't have a cell phone, but you have a computer? And he's like, yeah, that's the only way to play SimCity. Which, okay, that's a detail. Fair enough. So, they discuss the investigation and stuff. And Kobayashi is creepy as fuck because he finds the entire situation of being the lead suspect in a murder case where he woke up alone in a classroom with a corpse with blood all over everything. And he thought that was super rad. I feel like that's all you needed to hear to make him not just the lead suspect, just straight up arrest this dude. Maybe get some therapists in.
I've been so bored with everything, but when I saw the dead body of my teacher, I wasn't bored anymore.
Yeah. So, I forget that we got some details on the ongoing case, but I can't really remember them.
They discuss things, and Kobayashi is emphatically like, I want to be your assistant. I want to do what you're doing. I want to solve these crimes, because it's not like the mystery books or the things I watched, and they never really had me interested. But I feel like I'm alive. And he's like, you might lose your life. And Kobayashi's like, oh, I'm fine with that. I don't want to live like this anyway. I want to.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, and we find out that he's keeping them there, and has called the police because there's a warrant.
And we got some characterization for the Prez because he's kind of shonen protagonisty of like
he's very passionate.
Yeah, everything's like everything you're doing and everything you stand for is kind of shitty. I won't do things like that when I'm older. Yeah, you will.
Yeah,
it's cute, but you will.
The information on
we get an explanation of how this dude can be a detective while also being in school.
Right.
The answer is basically he's not in school. He signed up for high school, got perfect exam scores on the entrance exams. He attended the orientation ceremony and then never went again, and has special dispensation not to go to school because he's lending his talents to the government to solve crimes.
Yes. The extra information on the case was that basically we are having a media suppression on this thing due to my special privileges with the government, because we're going to kind of drive the real killer to desperation so that they reveal themselves or try to do something else. And then he goes on to say, oh yeah, there's a warrant for your arrest, by the way. And then the police come through the door, and he's just like, yeah, they found at the victim's parents' home a lot of murder weapons with your fingerprints on them.
Murder weapons and victims.
It appears the teacher was he liked to do some mass homicide on the side of teaching.
They specifically said he likes to do DIY furniture.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Human chairs.
the
maybe
episode
in
is
poor
called
taste.
The Human Chair Part 1. So we kind of knew what we were getting into going in, but yeah.
And so they arrest Kobayashi as Akechi is just saying, "Hey, game's much more difficult.
Yeah.
Go for it."
It's more fun that way, says Kobayashi, and it's still creepy. And it is still probably character evidence against him. I feel like one of the things that's going to be used in the investigation is the person that killed that teacher apparently is not as good at DIY. Because that was a shitty chair, I guess.
Well, he didn't. He was only the assistant. He didn't have the teacher doing the main work.
Yeah, you're right. He's got a few more years to really hone his craft.
Let him practice a bit more. He'll get there.
I'm
I like
super
the
into
show.
this. It might be like I've got a bunch of work to still do today. I say today, it's gonna be like tomorrow in like an hour, but it might be a choice between doing that or fucking just binging the rest of the show because this is really fucking good. I love this.
The music they chose for this show is very good as well.
Hmm.
I like the opening a lot. So.
Yes, that was quite good.
Jesus, we have completely opposite opinions about this entire show.
Okay, Slicer, tear into it.
Oh man,
Cut it to shreds, Slicer.
I just didn't like the opening song. That's about the gist of it.
Why
It's
didn't
not
you
a
say
genre or
Slicer
style of
Shreds?
music that I enjoy.
What about the show didn't appeal? Because you said you didn't like the show either.
The show itself is, I don't know. I guess I'm just not attracted to murder mysteries, so it's not a problem with the show. It's the genre. So again,
like Death
I'm not
Note
like
either?
carrying it.
Hello?
What?
You didn't like Death Note either? I'm assuming?
Oh, that was more of a show, a performance. That was more of a performance. It was just a bunch of people being really hammy at each other. So that was different enough that I enjoyed it. Also, I was much younger when I saw it, so my tastes were different.
Patient, what did you think?
I was also quite fond of the show. I am likely to watch, at the very least, the next part of this episode, just to see how it turns out. I think I've become aware that I'm quite fond of the mystery type of genre myself. So the main protagonist is a bit on the creepy side, but I can definitely sympathize with him finding a bit more interest in life once it gets more interesting. You want to find something that makes you feel alive.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm pretty okay with not doing that myself, but that's me. But watching people that are like that is interesting at the very least. Didn't catch that.
You're missing out.
No, I'm fine. So, we gonna roll another one?
Yes.
No, we're just going to end the episode, and that's the end of Anime Reflux forever.
Yeah.
The end.
Surprise.
Final episode. 23.
That would be W.
W.
Oh, patient, could you post the link to the list in this chat, by the way?
Very well, just a
The
moment.
recording chat, so...
Should we just delete the other server? Or...
That's basically why I'm asking him to do that, so I can just delete the other server and we can... Yeah, that's fine.
Actually, that would be X. Yes, it's X. So, 5 shows left.
5 shows left. We have 2.
All right, there's the link to the list.
Thank you.
And show number 2 is Xenosaga.
That sounds familiar.
Yes, it does.
Xenosaga is one of the games in the kind of the Xeno series.
Yeah.
No relation to Xenoblade.
Well, Xenosaga is kind of it's a spiritual successor to Xenogears because that was Square produced. The game, at least, was Square produced, and then Monolith Soft went to make Xenosaga, which is essentially the sequel to Xenogears, but using slightly different characters with different names. The legal distinction, because they didn't have the rights to Xenogears.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that whole confusing debacle.
And so, yes, relation to Xenoblade and all of that, as they kept with the Xeno series.
I feel like I watched Team 4-Star play like the first half hour of this game and found it incredibly dull. But that's not really a comment on the story or anything, so not really useful.
I have some friends who are very, very into Xenosaga. So this is Xenosaga the animation, 2005 anime. I hope it has a bad dub.
It doesn't seem to have a dub. I didn't see one anyway. Nope. No dub.
Huh. That's kind of surprising.
For a video game adaptation, yeah. But, yeah, comments on this one are not especially helpful. It's a lot of people... Well, it's not even a lot of people. It's people saying, hey, I found this show. Gonna take a look and see what it is. And then not saying anything else. So, yeah.
You know, maybe at some point we should start leaving comments for posterity.
Maybe. What would you say about Aiken, patient?
Which one was that again?
The Gigantimus Boobs one.
Which one?
The Gigantimus Boobs one. Like, several times the size of the heads.
Oh, Icon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aiken.
Oh, right. Is that the one you watched that week that I wasn't going to be on?
I feel like you were part of that one because I think that was the one where I think it was like a water slide that was pudding or something, and a guy got his foot stuck in a girl's mouth and she was just sucking his toes, and you were not that weirded out by it.
I think the one that we did while you were away was
Queen's Blade, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that now, just I don't recall it sticking out as gigantimous, as you say.
And you must be repressing that anime hard then, because they're enormous in that series.
Or we've just
Comically
had
so.
so many since then, and I just don't care enough to remember that one.
That's fair.
I feel like you're repressing a little bit, and it may have started immediately after finished watching the episode. But yeah,
It could be both.
it's fair enough.
Either way, are we going to be vetoing Xenosaga?
I don't see why we would.
Neither do I.
I got no reason to.
And
I'm not
thus,
offended by it or anything.
and thus X's count falls to 4.
Can only give it to you 4 more times.
Clearing out 2 categories will be interesting.
Well, though. Alright. So, Xenosaga next week. Watch fucking. What was it called? Laplace. Something. The Ranpo Kitan. Watch it. Game of Laplace. It's very good so far.
Yeah, it gets a recommendation for me. I appreciate it for what it is.
It gets a recommendation from me as well.